The room was filled with flowers. Soft pinks, whites, stuffed animals still wearing their tags. A lullaby played from the hallway speaker. My daughter had just been born, a miracle after 3 years of trying. And I was too sore, too stunned, too full of love to do anything except stare at her tiny face. I didn't know that just 15 miles away, someone was tearing that love apart, piece by piece. My sister had a spare key. She said she'd help set up the nursery while I was in recovery. Said she wanted to surprise me. At 3:47 p.m., I heard the front door of our house slam. The sound carried through my husband's phone during a call. I remember asking weakly, "Was that our place?" He stepped out to check, but by the time he returned, his face was pale.
He didn't speak.
He just turned on his phone camera and handed it to me. I stared and stared. The nursery was wrecked. The crib splintered. The wall decals I had picked with trembling hands at 30 weeks. Torn down, stuffed in garbage bags. The changing table flipped on its side. Drawers dumped out like someone had been looking for something. Shredded baby books. Scattered diapers. A single balloon still floated in the corner, like a cruel joke. On the wall, written in black marker over the pastel wallpaper, were 5 words. You needed this wake-up call. I couldn't breathe. My chest collapsed inward. I tried to sit up and winced, the stitches pulled. My husband reached for me, but I didn't even feel his hand. It was my sister. My only sister. She knew what this baby meant. She'd cried with me through the miscarriages. Said she was praying for us. So why? Before I could ask, the door to my hospital room opened again. Heavy boots. Crisp uniform. 4 medals across the chest. My father-in-law, a retired Marine general, stood at the doorway. And when he saw my husband's face, saw the video paused on the destruction, he didn't blink. He just asked one question. Where is she? My sister was still at the house. She had no idea he was coming. She didn't hear him come in. That's the part one still think about. While I lay in a hospital bed, stitches still raw, heart splitting open from what she'd done, my sister was at our house, barefoot on our baby's rug, sipping tea like nothing had happened. She was on the phone when he opened the door. Not with me. Not apologizing. Laughing. My father-in-law didn't yell. He didn't slam the door. He just stepped inside, his polished boots sinking slightly into the mess she'd made, diaper shredded, books ripped, a mobile twisted like a noose. She turned and froze. The mug slipped from her hand, shattered on the wood. Sir, she started, as if that would help. He said nothing, just walked forward, his uniform pristine, every medal on his chest glinting under the hallway light. The kind of man who'd commanded troops on foreign soil, and now stood in the wreckage of his granddaughter's first room. I thought, she stammered. I thought it would help. Wake her up.
She's too soft. Too naive.
She doesn't know how hard life with a baby is. He raised a hand. She stopped mid-sentence. And then, in the calmest voice I've ever heard, he said, You destroyed the sanctuary of a child who hasn't even breathed a full week of life. That is not help. That is war. She laughed nervously. You're not seriously. But he wasn't smiling. From the hallway, he pulled out his phone. Snapped photo after photo. Evidence. Damage. The message scrawled across the wall. Leave, he said simply.
Now.
Before I call the police. Or worse, your job. Her face twisted. You wouldn't. He stepped closer. I've written field reports more detailed than your entire resume. One call. She backed up. She looked small then. Not like the sister I used to follow around, not the woman who once swore she'd protect me. Just someone who'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. She grabbed her bag and bolted out the front door. He didn't follow. He just stood in that broken room, the soft pink wall behind him torn and stained, and whispered, No one hurts my family. By the time I was discharged, the house had been cleaned. Not by her, of course not. By my husband, his father, and 2 of his retired military buddies who treated every shattered picture frame like it was evidence in a crime scene. The nursery wasn't the same. We tried to repaint. Tried to hang new decals. but something in the air had shifted. Like the room knew. I held my daughter in the doorway and promised her, this will never happen again. I meant it. Meanwhile, my sister had gone quiet. No apology. No message. But I started to hear whispers. From a friend who worked in HR. From a neighbor who'd seen her storm out of her condo in tears. From my aunt, who'd received a cryptic group text. I guess I'm the villain now. Everyone's so dramatic. She was playing victim.
Of course she was.
That's what she did best. But here's what she didn't expect. My father-in-law didn't stop at photos. He filed a police report, documented every inch of damage, logged repair costs, took statements. Quiet, legal, impeccably organized. I didn't even know until I found the folder on the kitchen table labeled Infant Property Damage, Civil and Criminal Options. His handwriting was neat, precise. He wasn't angry for a moment. He was building a case. Do you want me to press charges? He asked me one morning, pouring coffee like he was asking about the weather. I looked at my daughter sleeping in her bassinet. I want her to feel what I felt, I said. Not physically. Emotionally. The helplessness. He nodded once. Understood. That week, a formal letter was sent to her employer. Not from me. From a licensed attorney. It didn't accuse. It simply stated the facts. She entered a home without permission. She caused emotional and property damage affecting an infant. A civil claim was being considered. And just like that, the cracks started to show. She posted vague quotes online, deleted comments, went off private,
Back on.
and then she called me, voice low.
Tight.
You're ruining my life over some baby furniture? I smiled, just slightly. No, I said. You did that. And I hung up. By week 2, the fallout was no longer silent. Her job placed her on leave, pending internal review. She deleted her LinkedIn. Family group chats started to split like fault lines, some defending her, others asking, why would she even do something like that? The story had leaked, not from me, but from the paper trail. The police report, the formal letter, the photos someone else forwarded to someone else, and suddenly, the truth had legs. And still, she hadn't said the words. Not once. No, I'm sorry. No, I was wrong. Instead, she texted my husband. Your father's gone too far. She's using the baby to punish me. That was the moment I stopped feeling conflicted. The moment I stopped wondering if I'd been too harsh. Because there's a kind of broken you don't come back from. The kind where someone looks at your newborn child and sees an opportunity to hurt you. So I got to work. Quietly. Intentionally. The baby registry company had security footage from the day she walked in and canceled half the items we'd ordered in store. My best friend sent me screenshots of my sister bragging weeks earlier about taking things down a notch. Another mom from our neighborhood messaged, saying she'd overheard my sister at a cafe talking about how I was getting too much attention lately. Piece by piece, her jealousy became public record. No shouting. No chaos. Just truth. And then came the baby shower photos. Not mine, hers. From 4 years ago. I reposted one. No caption. Just the image of her beaming beside a pristine nursery, surrounded by gifts and love. People understood. And in the comments, someone wrote, wild how someone who had so much joy for her own child could destroy someone else's. It spread. Quietly. Organically. She noticed. She texted me again. This time just one sentence. You really want to ruin me? And I replied,
No.
I want you to remember what you ruined. Every single time you see a crib, hear a lullaby, or walk past a baby aisle, I want you to remember. The knock came just before midnight. I was rocking my daughter by the window, her soft breathing steady against my chest, when I saw the silhouette on the porch. At first, I thought it was a neighbor, but then the shape shifted, arms crossed, pacing like a trapped animal. My sister. I didn't open the door. Not at first. My husband came down the stairs, shirt wrinkled, eyes sharp. You want me to handle this? But I stood, carefully placed my daughter in her bassinet, and opened the door myself. She didn't wait for an invitation. She stepped inside like she still belonged, like she hadn't shattered the quiet peace of this home 2 weeks earlier. Okay, she said, already shaking. I messed up.
I know.
But you're turning this into a circus. You need to stop. I stared at her, at the trembling hands, the puffed eyes, the unraveling pride. You didn't just mess up, I said. You violated something sacred. She laughed bitterly. God, you always act like you're some kind of martyr. It was furniture. It was just a stupid room. My voice cut through hers. It was hope.
She blinked.
It was the room I sat in every night wondering if I'd ever get to hold a child. It was the color I picked after the 4th miscarriage. It was the one place in this house that wasn't filled with grief until you decided to stain it with your own. She was quiet now, breathing hard, tears clinging to her lashes. I lost everything, she whispered. My job. Half my friends won't speak to me. You lost their version of you, I said. The one you created, not the one you became. She stepped forward. So that's it? You're done with me? I glanced over at the bassinet. No, I said softly. But I'm done making you the center of my forgiveness. Behind me, my husband had taken out his phone. He pressed play. A video. The nursery. The wreckage. The writing on the wall. My sister's voice, from the background. She needs to wake up. Her eyes went wide. You recorded it? My husband spoke calm.
No.
You did. We had cameras installed last month. You forgot. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. I didn't need to say another word. She walked out in silence. And this time, the door didn't slam. It closed, softly, finally. The silence didn't last long. Within 48 hours, her voice was back, just not in my house. This time, it echoed online. A half-apology video posted to her private story.
Teary-eyed.
Dim lighting. Cropped sweater. A soft filter. I made mistakes. But I've been through so much too. I wish people knew the whole story. She didn't name me directly. But the caption said enough. Some wounds go both ways. Forgiveness is for the strong. She was rewriting the narrative. Trying to spin the destruction into misunderstanding. Trying to turn the nursery into a metaphor. Trying to be the victim. But this time, I didn't reply with silence. I replied with clarity. A single post. A carousel. The before photo. Our nursery, glowing in soft yellow light. Crib assembled. Bookcase filled. A name banner on the wall. The after. Splinters. Chaos. Black markers scrawled like a scar. The final image. My daughter's tiny hand in mine. No caption. No tag. Just 3 dates. Built. June 12th. Destroyed. August 4th. Rebuilt. Not by her. Within hours, the comments section flooded. People remembered. People cared. People compared the timelines. People asked questions. She turned off her comments. Then she deleted the video. Then she vanished. But here's the thing. I wasn't chasing revenge. I was preserving the truth. And the truth, when spoken plainly, doesn't need a spotlight. It stands on its own. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name, in familiar handwriting. Inside. 1 paragraph. 9 sentences. Not a single one said, I'm sorry. Instead, I hope one day you'll understand why I did what I did. I folded the letter once. Then again. Then slid it into the shredder. Because understanding doesn't heal what you refuse to name. And forgiveness doesn't grow where there's still rot. That night, I rocked my daughter in the finished nursery, the one we rebuilt together, with hands that loved her. And as I hummed her to sleep, I realized something. My sister never destroyed the room. She just revealed what never belonged in it. Fall came. The nursery smelled like baby lotion and new wood. The walls were freshly painted, sage green this time, and every inch felt earned. There were no more calls. No more notes. Just a clean kind of silence. Until I got a message from her ex. Yes, my sister's ex. The one she never spoke about. He'd seen the story online. Said he wasn't surprised. Said she used to do things like this before, small acts of destruction, always masked as truth-telling. But then he said something that stuck with me. She doesn't hate you. She envies you. That's why she tried to break what you built. I stared at the message, unreadable. Not hurt, not even angry. Just confirmed. That weekend, I donated the last of the old baby shower items she'd touched. The ones she'd once gifted me before she turned. I gave them to a women's shelter with young moms. Women who knew what it felt like to rebuild from nothing. And I left a note inside one of the boxes. For someone who deserves a beginning full of grace. The final blow wasn't explosive.
It didn't need to be.
It was the absence. The fact that she wasn't invited to my daughter's naming ceremony. The fact that her name was never mentioned in the speeches. The fact that, when asked who helped raise this child, we answered with photos, and none of them included her. She tried to text one last time. A picture from years ago. Us in matching dresses as kids. No message. Just nostalgia. I didn't reply. I just archived it. Because some memories aren't wounds. They're warnings. Later that night, I watched my husband cradle our daughter under the string lights in our backyard. My father-in-law grilled quietly in the corner, apron on over his uniform pants. Friends laughed over dessert. And me? I didn't miss her. Not even a little. Thumbnail-worthy scene. A peaceful backyard evening. String lights glowing. Husband holding the baby. Narrator watching with a quiet smile, while an old photo of two little girls in matching dresses lies folded on a nearby table, untouched. The first birthday came fast. I held my daughter as the candle flickered on her tiny cake. One flame. 1 year. One lifetime away from the day my sister tore everything down. The room was filled with softness, warm lights, laughter, baby giggles. No black markers. No broken cribs. Only people who had earned the right to be here. My father-in-law stood in uniform by the kitchen, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He toasted with sparkling cider, raised his glass, and said, "To beginnings that no one can steal." We all clapped.
But me?
I watched the doorway, and felt nothing. She wasn't there. No text. No surprise appearance. No final apology. And that was the justice. Not revenge. Not chaos. But her absence. She had removed herself from the narrative. And I'd stopped editing her back in. The baby slept that night wrapped in a handmade blanket from one of my husband's old friends, a Marine who'd driven 4 hours just to deliver it in person. On the tag was a note. Built stronger. Because she's worth it. Later, I sat by the window, alone, moonlight pooling across the nursery floor. I opened a small box, the one that held what was left of that first wrecked room. A piece of wallpaper. A corner of the old mobile.
I thought I'd feel something.
I didn't. Just peace. Just silence. The kind you earn. Because, in the end, she didn't ruin me. She revealed herself. And I let her go. So now, when I tell my daughter stories about strength, I won't talk about revenge. I'll talk about rebuilding. I'll tell her how love doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just refuses to move. And I'll remind her of one thing. That on the day someone tried to break her story before it began, her family stood, while the destroyer walked herself out.